video about, or a live stream about the Dell Inspiron Mini or Dell Inspiron Micro Desktop computer that I got off Macari, an app similar to eBay where you buy and sell. And this is what it looks like. This kind of computer is actually made by Dell back in 2015 between Windows 8 and Windows 10 period. This has an Intel Celeron dual-core CPU in it, which is 64-bit capable. It is so small that the power supply, which you can see right there, is external, and it uses an AC adapter that goes in. On the back, there is HDMI, a display port, two USB 2.0 ports, Ethernet, and a headset connection, headphone, all in one port on the right. To the left is a display port, power on the left. Then on the right side of it, frontward facing towards me, well, towards this way, there are USB ports on the right, one USB 2.0 and one 3.0. On the other side, there is an SD card slot. There's the power button. The hard drive indicator is right there. It looks like this. And there's the SD card slot. The computer is small, tiny, and it's not really loud. Now, the seller on Macari sold this refurbished as is, meaning it came without storage. It came with RAM, which had 2 gigs of RAM, but I put 4 gigs in it. It has the CPU that is embedded into the motherboard. It's non-removable, but it is fan powered. I can barely hear the fan run, which is actually pretty interesting. But the fan will spin up as the system gets hotter, but it's not going to get overly hot. The only downside is I'm having to install Linux to an external hard drive using a Xbox 360 HDD SATA connector adapter transfer kit because this does not have no hard drive, mechanical hard drive internal or SATA NVMe SSD in it due to because it was refurbished without that. The storage and RAM are upgradable. 8 gigs of RAM is the max that this can max out at. You can get the storage of an SSD NVMe card to fit. An SSD comes in either the size of a laptop drive, High Predator, and or the form of a MBNE card, like a little MBNE card that's like a long circuit card that you can put inside of this. Dell designed this thing so simple it's easy to remove. There are 4 screws that hold the top cover on. You take out the 4 screws each, turn it over, basically gently shake the cover, and then you pull the cover apart, and it takes you inside to the system board. Now, I've already taken it apart, and there's dust buildup on the fan area, but that's about it. On the fan fins, but that's it. Things like that. So that's what it looks like. Windows originally was on here. Well, not really on here, but this was refurbished. But when you got these brand new at the time in 2015, 2014, these were brand new with Windows 8 or Windows 10, one of the two, because I never really owned a Dell Inspiron Micro 3050 desktop. I never really owned one of these back then because they were new and they were expensive, so I didn't really own one. But I'm glad to get a hold of one a few years later. Originally, I wanted a computer like this, a small one that is small. It's not new. I already have a HP Pro desk sitting right behind. That one right there is the one I've got that I can play some Steam games on and or stream from. That's different right there. But this can also be built into a Steam link, meaning I could put Steam on here as long as the CPU handles Steam. I could put Steam on here and run Steam off this. building into a Steam Link box. Originally, Valve made Steam Link boxes back in 2015, and I was not the first person to get a Steam Link. I brought a Steam Link back in 2015 and brought it off directly off of the Steam store and had it shipped to my house, and I brought it and it worked, but the problem with the Steam Link is that the Steam Link requires a computer with Steam running in order to function, otherwise it's just a sitting duck. But this right here is not a Steam Link. I can put Steam on it with Linux or Windows and use it to play Steam games remotely over it in my home. But the fact is that the Steam Link box is now discontinued, meaning it no longer is manufactured by Valve. It is no longer produced by Valve anymore. You could possibly find a used Steam Link box online, but Valve killed off the Steam Link after 2016. They just killed it out, and now they have Steam Link available for smart TV, phones, and tablets. They basically have that. And now here comes the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck is a portable PC that is similar. Uh, Predator, aren't you forgetting something? Not gonna work. This thing is a embedded, not really a super high power machine because the fact that it's using a fan and the fact that it's not really super high end to run everything. You can run whatever you like. Web browsing's fine, but nothing more. Things like that. This has onboard Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Of course, it does. It does have an Intel Wi-Fi card and Bluetooth merged into the same module card that can be removed or replaced. But this does have built-in Bluetooth, which is a good thing. Most of the computers I've dealt with, I've actually had purchased for me, didn't really have Bluetooth in them. They only had, well, at least I had at least two laptops with Wi-Fi in them, two of them. And I had two other additional used machines that had Wi-Fi in them. I had one that had Bluetooth in it with Wi-Fi, but no Ethernet in it, and it was not that great. It was a tablet. It was a Windows tablet. That was an Acer Iconia W510 tablet. That was a tablet with Windows 10. Originally had Windows 8, but it was eligible to upgrade to Windows 10. But the thing with that one is it had an Intel CPU that was an Intel Atom system on a chip that could not be upgraded to support later Windows 10 builds due to because the CPU was not compatible at the time with it. Therefore, it didn't really do that well. I've been enjoying Steam games quite a lot, a bit more. Things like that. I'm putting Debian 11 on it, Debian GNU Linux on this machine because Windows will not boot from anything external. Windows will only boot from an external USB to install Windows on a PC, but you are unable to boot Windows on an external hard drive. You're not able to because Microsoft didn't design it to be that way, but they did design Windows 8 to have a feature called Windows to Go called WTG Windows to Go, Windows 10 Professional and Windows 10 and Windows 8 Professional that lets you boot Windows 8 on a flash drive and Windows 10 on a flash drive through Windows to Go. That was a feature that Microsoft implemented at some point, but they later discontinued it. But this is exactly what I'm going to have Linux on the external drive, which is going to run from the drive over this Xbox 360 SATA transfer cable to where the machine can boot from it, because it's just in reality this is an Xbox 360 SATA hard drive transfer kit cable that has SATA on one end and has a proprietary Xbox connector for the 360 hard drive on the other. I'll show you what it looks like. This is what it looks like. This is the SATA that converts to the proprietary Xbox 360 plug. The Xbox 360 plug for the Xbox 360 Classic 360 before the Slim models used this kind of proprietary plug here, but then it also used the Sata plug for a hard drive pre-manufactured for Microsoft. But then again, the later 360 Slims used a hard drive SATA connector directly from the hard drive itself, rather than relying on this weird plug that you got a proprietary hard drive connector on one and SATA on the other. The first revision of the Xbox 360 hard drive transfer cable was a gray colored version that only included the proprietary Xbox 360 hard drive port. The SATA port was not included on the first revision of this transfer cable, but the second revision, which is this one, is a black cable that has a SATA connector on one end and the proprietary 360 hard drive plug on the other. This is the second revision. The first one only had that plug right there, which was for the first generation 360s, but the Slims had a SATA connector that comes from directly from the hard drive that plugs into the console SATA port on the Slim variant, but on the non-Slim variants it didn't. Now, I'm having to use Debian 11 for this just because this thing can run either Windows 8 or Windows 10, but due to the way Windows 10 gets updated frequently and due to Windows 11, this Intel Celeron might not be able to run Windows 11 at all due to it may not be compatible with or it doesn't meet the minimum system requirements that it doesn't. I'm streaming live then to rather upload a YouTube video which would be too large to upload due to my phone can record in 4K and the video file would be way too large to upload, so that's why I'm doing this live to cut out the uploading of a very big video file which would take too long. Now, this is exactly how you would install Debian 11 on any PC that can support it. This is the AMD 64 variant because this computer is 64-bit. For 32-bit machines such as laptops or desktops that are 32-bit, you would have to use 32-bit versions of Windows or Linux, but this is the 64 variant. And this is the process of it. Note that the audio can be routed. The audio comes through HDMI, which is plugged in the back here, or that port on the back, the headphone audio port, mic port combo. That's exactly, I'll show you what it is. There are some old videos on YouTube talking about this product that is now discontinued, but you can see the Ethernet port in the back, and or the headphone audio combination port right there. That's the combo 2-in-1. There's the two USB ports. There's the HDMI, which can work with any HD TV, and there's a display port directly at the back. So you could basically use any PC that has HDMI or a micro PC that has HDMI out and use it with anything, including a 4K TV, but you won't get 4K out of it. You'll just get 1080i or lower, but not above that point. This has no scratches on the top or around it except the back where the plastic gets scratches around the connector ports, but it's Intel base with Intel Celeron. This machine is vulnerable to the Spectre meltdown attack. It's vulnerable to that. The BIOS revision of this machine is at version A06, and it needs to be updated to A07 to fix that issue. Dell names their BIOS versions A06 or A07. They use a weird number versioning scheme to do it. So you have to have version A06, which it comes with version A06, but there's version A07 of the Dell BIOS here. Intel processors are vulnerable to the Spectre meltdown attacks. You just search Intel Spectre or Intel meltdown attack, and you'll get tons of articles about the vulnerabilities in Intel processors. Okay, Predator, don't need to put in that you have a PS4 Pro. No need for that. I mean, it's fine if you put that in chat, but The thing is here is the graphics on here appears to be Intel HD graphics. I don't know what version of Intel HD graphics it is. I have no way of knowing about that, but it reports Intel HD graphics. The video memory is occupied by the system RAM, which means there's 4 gigs of RAM in here. So the video memory would eat up 2 gigs, leaving a total of, well, no. The system memory in here is 4 gigs, but the VRAM, which would be borrowing from the system memory. There's two types of video memory, shared and dedicated. For systems that are all-in-one or embedded, you'll get the shared video memory, where the operating system borrows some additional RAM to create more additional VRAM, meaning you basically get your system memory being converted into VRAM when you run an application that is intensive. But when you not run an intensive application, the system memory is converted to VRAM, will be freed up back to system memory. Dedicated is just, well, dedicated is on the graphics card where you have like a NVIDIA or RT or AMD that has dedicated private video memory. But the shared is where the video hardware borrows the system memory for VRAM. So it basically borrows it and frees it back. That's basically how that works. That's basically a TLDR of how some computer systems that come with dedicated graphics will have a dedicated card that's a hardware card connected to the PCI slot on the motherboard, or you'll have a computer that has integrated graphics that borrow the system RAM to convert into VRAM directly on the RAM on the system board. The RAM slots in this used is actually a laptop sized RAM module. It's laptop sized since it's micro. My Dell or the Dell Inspiron 1525 computer I've had in my older YouTube videos use laptop RAM modules. This uses laptop sized RAM, which is DDR3 by taking apart the whole unit, which is not that long. It doesn't take long to take apart. But if I turn the camera backward, back here is the HP Pro Desk computer that uses the desktop sized RAM, even though it's a small form factor board. It uses the desktop sized memory modules that go on the system board. It uses a laptop slimline optical drive. It uses a big desktop hard drive. And the packaging for it came in an Amazon box, even though the seller on Macari put it in a cardboard box, in an Amazon box, and things like that. I did the unboxing yesterday, which I chose not to make a video on, just because it came with the power cord and unit, and the fact that this is a small micro machine, and the box had the seller's name and address and where they live, so that's why I did not do an unboxing, nor I did ever film an unboxing of this, because it's only 2 pieces. So now I gotta hit Alt Control Delete and unplug the SD card reader writer thing before I boot back into the installer. Let me hit Alt Control Delete. This is what it looks like. This has no optical drive, so you have to plug an external optical drive or a flash drive. And there's no boot device found, which is kind of weird, so I'll have to hit F12. Dell computers, for Dell BIOSes, you hit F12 to hit the boot menu or F1 to set up. I forgot I disabled UEFI secure boot, which is why I'm not getting any kind of thing on screen right now. So I hit F1. The BIOS is looking for somewhere to boot. Actually, I hit F2 to enter setup. So I hit F2. Hard power it off. Okay, it's flashing a keyboard indicator indicating there's no boot device. And power it up. Hold F2. There. Now I go in here, and this is what it looks like. Let me just zoom on in so you can see. I added a 4 gig RAM module directly. And there it is. It's a dual core PC with 2 processors with 2 threads. The BIOS Dell names their BIOS revision A06, which is the which is the old version. There's revision A07, which is flashable to the machine through the manufacturer's website of Dell. Dell still has this as one of their computers for support, but the computer is long out of production. It supports an M.2 SSD as well. Right there. There's the fixed HDD and M.2 SATA SSD type, so you could put in both storage devices and have either one to boot from, things like that. This would be easy way to back up an operating system with one being a larger drive, such as a 128 gig, but you would have to have a 1 terabyte or 500 gig installed to make it to where you can image the operating system. Let me just hide the chat since I cannot zoom in and out there. Actually, I can, but it's weird. Let me just hold the phone. This is what it looks like. There's adapter warning. Basically, can tell you if you're using an adapter that's too little capacity. The box will display a warning message if the adapter has low capacities detected. It's 45 watts, which is what the adapter sees. So it is a 45 watt AC adapter. It must be 45 watts or higher. If it's 40 watts or lower, the computer will warn you that you're using an adapter with low capacity on it. Dell basically puts their computers to detect when you're using an AC adapter that has little capacity, such as a lower watt power supply. And if it's too low, it'll warn you. If it's very high, it won't warn you, but it uses 33, or no, not 33. It's using DDR3 RAM I put in here, but if I go to secure, I turned off secure boot, so that's why. And strangely enough, there's a USB debug option, which is kind of odd on some machines. But if I go to secure boot, change it to UEFI, which is why we cannot boot right away. I hit secure boot enabled. It detects Debian as the boot system, which Debian does support UEFI secure boot directly. So I got to restart the machine. UEFI secure boot's just a fancy smancy way of making sure nothing gets inserted into the boot process of your computer upon startup. I am filming off my phone since I'd rather not upload a. Yes, this is live stitched and film being live broadcasted in real time. Hold on. There I gotta zoom out. That's why you couldn't see anything. Yes, I'm using my phone to do live from on YouTube, but this is exactly how it looks. Now, this was a challenge. The fact that this not have an SSD or an HDD pre-installed, it's a challenge, but I was able to resolve it. Stitched. I've been awake since like 6 a.m. this morning. I woke up at 6 a.m. There is Bluetooth support, and Linux can detect Bluetooth adapters and devices, whether it be an external Bluetooth adapter or internal Bluetooth. It can detect it and work just fine. And this is how it would look. I did a USB SD card read. Yes, this is the computer. I did a USB SD card install a Debian GNU Linux 11 right there, because this has no optical drive, so you have to use a USB flash. Okay, it's using HD, so parts of the screen are cut, Let me just plug in a mouse to continue. Let me see, there is a free port, but let me power the computer off and change the USB directly to the back. I could use a small flash drive with this either way, but there's no point in doing that. Let me put the phone down. So let me just, here's how to fix an issue with HD displays that crop parts of the screen off. Okay, let me just turn the screen away, turn the phone away. Oh. Hold on. There. This is using an HDMI video out and audio out, so that's why the parts of the screen are overscaled or too high, making it difficult to see on some monitors. Which is why I can't click anything. There it is. XFCE is loaded, but the problem is parts of the screen are overscaled. There's an easy way to fix this. It supports 1920 by 1080 anyway, all the way down to 640 by 480, but to make things fit on screen, you hit apply and wait. You'll see a confirmation dialog box. You hit a keep, and that'll make it fit properly, which it will squish things down to the within the display width, but I set the scale back a bit to help things fit properly and hit apply. This is how you would change scaling if you're using a resolution that's too high or too low. I basically changed it to where it will fit. Now I need to shrink the available workspaces back a bit. There is onboard Wi-Fi and Bluetooth detected. So I got to set the scaling down in order to fit stuff on screen. Some windows that are huge won't fit properly. There's a trick to that. If you hold Alt and use the mouse, you'll be able to drag windows around. So hold the Alt key, and you can drag windows around a bit by holding Alt and hit apply. So now that I've scaled it properly, everything will fit. So if I hold Alt, even one-handed will work. So hold Alt, click, and I can drag the window in Linux. I think this is the same thing for Windows, but there is onboard Bluetooth support. If I go to settings, there's a YouTube channel called Explaining Computers that explains a lot about technology, things like that. But this is actually it. Steam is 32-bit only, so therefore you won't be able to get Steam right away unless if you enable something. You enable a architecture for Debian 64-bit installs. This is a free open source software. I'm using sudo, which allows you to get super user privileges. But this is what it looks like. The Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are both detected on this machine. Linux works with almost all hardware types, but it's a hit or miss. It's a giant hit or miss. It just depends on the hardware and manufacturer. You won't be able to read anything on screen because I adjusted scaling due to this is a 19-inch TV flat screen, and certain resolutions will either force a error message on the TV saying, please change source resolution for VGA, but not for HD connectors, it won't. But for VGA, which this supports, it will show, please change source resolution. So I can set it to 720, but when I do that, it automatically will knock parts of the screen out of quarter out of bounds, causing trouble. But there's a fix for that. So I simply lower it to below scaling factor determines X and Y scaling. So I set it to 1.1. When I hit apply, it does this. It'll give you a confirmation prompt, and if you don't respond within 3 seconds, it'll revert back to defaults. So let me knock the scaling further down a bit to where you can see things on screen better. Let me just zoom in. Okay, things are going to get a little blurry, but let me just hit keep. This is what it shows. It identifies the flat screen as Philips 1, which is a Philips 19-inch monitor. Here's Synaptics Package Manager. This is what you would use in Debian or any other Debian-based distro to install software from. To enable Bluetooth support, you would have to launch Synaptic and select Search at the top right and click and type in the name of package you're looking for, so I can install Blueman to enable Bluetooth support. This is a Debian net install that I used a net installer, therefore certain things are not installed. Okay, it wants to install Blue Devil, which is fine. Blue Mon, which is Bluetooth monitor. Bluetooth. So if you have a computer that has Bluetooth, you could enable it by simply see what I do here to do it. This is using Intel Bluetooth Wi-Fi combo 2-in-1 on the same Wi-Fi chip card. So therefore I would have to install Blue EZ or Bluez for short, or Blue Z for short, not Bluez, Blue Z rather. That's the name of Bluetooth management in Linux. A long time ago, I got a Bluetooth adapter from Walmart, and I was able to pair a Wii remote and create a cordless Air mouse that used a Wii sensor bar and a Wii remote. You could actually create an optical Wii remote mouse. No, I would not have a computer that's a toilet or a console. Forget it. That's gross. Forget that. That's nasty. So I'll show you what I mean. This would be the same process for Ubuntu-based systems too. I apologize if things get a little wobbly, wibbly, because I'm holding the phone one-handedly, and you'll see a little bit of wobbliness. This is what it looks like. I put XFCE on here because it's a lightweight desktop environment. There are other desktop environments I can install, such as GNOME, Plasma, and more, but I'm sticking with XFCE just for the sake of it, and Plasma, which is the KDE desktop environment. KDE desktop environment launched back in early 1999, early 1998, early 2000, way back then, or a decade ago. Linux was created by Linus Torvalds back in the late 90s, and it didn't really take off until after like 2010s. When it first started off as an infant kernel that Linus Torvalds created, it didn't really have much traction back then because people back then were using Windows and MS-DOS, but nowadays Linux has traction in smart TVs, embedded appliances, phones, tablets, Internet of Things devices, things like that. Raspberry Pi boards also have came out in popularity. This is kind of a cheaper way, mainly just to use for web surfing. If I get Steam running on here, then I could do a Steam Link type thing where I could have my Steam games streamed to this machine and I can play it anywhere in the house as long as I have a TV with the HD TV connector and I'm all good to go. I'll show you Bluetooth support right now. I'll have to show you what it looks like. If I go to System or Settings, here's Bluetooth Manager. known as Bluetooth Man. So I hit yes to enable Bluetooth Manager on startup. Now I'm going to click adapter, hit search, and now it's showing all the devices that are detected by the adapter. There is that built-in adapter which Intel made Wi-Fi Bluetooth adapter cards for some machines through OEM manufacturers, and this one has it. So this one's got what I'm looking for, and it shows you the IDs of devices. Now I'll turn on my phone, one of my smartphones, this UMX phone, for example. Let me zoom out. Let me show you what I mean. So let me just access the phone, not show my PIN. Let me just turn on the Bluetooth, and now let me go to connection, pair new device. Now let me see, Bluetooth. Okay, pair new device. Now I'm gonna hit search, which will search for devices. My UMX phone will pop up as U693CL. It'll pop up on the Bluetooth manager right there. So that is my Unimax 960 or 693CL. It's called Bluetooth just because there's a Bluetooth Foundation company that invented it. Hold on. I'll read a little bit how Bluetooth came to be. The first version of Bluetooth. How it started. Bluetooth is a short-range wireless technology standard that is used for exchanging data between fixed and mobile devices. It was created by the Bluetooth SIG, known as the Bluetooth Special Interest Group, and this launched in 1998, 23 years ago. This is used in game consoles, audio devices, personal computers, smartphones, and it launched early 1998, over 23 years. So 23 years ago, Bluetooth launched. The Bluetooth Special Interest Group, known as Bluetooth SIG or Bluetooth SIG for short, basically came up with that name to name it because it's using radio communication over short distances apart. The foundation of it was formed in Washington, U.S. That's basically the name of the organization that launched the name of Bluetooth, that created it, that spawned Bluetooth directly. Let me explain a little bit from the Wikipedia article for more information about how it came to be. Here. Okay, Bluetooth Special Interest Group, known as Bluetooth SIG, is the standards organization that oversees the development of Bluetooth standards and the licensing of the Bluetooth technologies and trademarks to manufacturers. So, Bluetooth is licensed to manufacturers of all devices, including consoles, computers, tablets, smartphones. Anything that has Bluetooth in it is a license from the Bluetooth SIG group. There's where the licensing comes from for OEM manufacturers. They basically launched in Kirkland, Washington, U.S. in 1998. September 23rd, 1998 was the launch, about 23 years ago. The Bluetooth SIG group, I repeat, the Bluetooth SIG group does not make, nor manufacture, or sell Bluetooth enabled products. It's up to the OEM manufacturers to create Bluetooth devices. You can visit www.bluetooth.com for more information. Yes, Google Fi is a Google cell service, Stitch. There's nothing much you can do about those ads. That's just a cell service that uses T-Mobile or it uses the T-Mobile network. It used to use Sprint network before Sprint got merged. So basically, Bluetooth was created in early 1998, around fall of that year. It was created back then. Now, I was a child in 1998 when September 23rd came around. That's when Bluetooth got launched. That's when it got formed and kickstarted, meaning that the manufacturers of mobile devices, consoles, handhelds added Bluetooth support for short-range data exchange. Basically, you can send a contact file to your Bluetooth-enabled computer by pushing it through Bluetooth, or you can push a file to your phone from your computer to your phone through Bluetooth itself. I'll show you an example. So I'm going to search. Bluetooth does have a visibility timeout setting, which will time out after a few number of minutes, which is intentional, which you can disable the Bluetooth setting timeout. That I'll show you what I can do, what you can do with Bluetooth literally. Hang on. My Bluetooth is on, so I'll show you. So I hit pair new device, and I'll hit Bluetooth on Android. iOS is the same thing, but I'll hit Bluetooth. Let's see, I'm trying to do search, pair new device. I got to put it into pairing mode. Now I hit pair new device, and it will show up in the device manager of Bluetooth. Windows has Bluetooth support too. Mac does too. Linux does too. Those three OSs have support. And I can hit pair. It'll show a pairing code. I got to duck the phone down away from the pairing code. Hit pair. This isn't the first time I've had a computer that was Bluetooth enabled. This is technically not the first time for me. My first time was an Acer Iconia tablet W510 with Windows 10. So basically I'm going to show you how this will work. I'll show you a brief example of Bluetooth tethering and or mobile hotspot that you can also do Bluetooth tethering to on some providers that enable it, that let you do it. Not all cell providers do that within their terms of service. Some do this, some do not. That's just how it works. So now I'm going to select connect to network access point. My mobile hotspot is running on my UMX phone through Assurance Wireless. And it is connecting, changing. Now it shows connection. We're going to do audio profile. Basically, you can play cell phone audio through Bluetooth to your computer, but it won't let me do this. You can also do a dial-up networking or network access point. Next, its device added successfully but failed to connect because it's already connected. Now there's serial ports for dial-up, Bluetooth dial-up, which is a thing. But the audio profile does not work. Not quite until I change a setting in it. So if I click Debian and I select Debian from the phone's Bluetooth manager, my UMX phone only supports internet connection sharing and contact sharing. It does not support Bluetooth audio sharing. It does not support that. My current phone, which is the Motorola Moto G7 Power, supports Bluetooth audio share to any Bluetooth enabled computer or tablet, or enabled Bluetooth computer rather, not tablet. But I'll show you what the speed settings of the Bluetooth tethering looks like directly in its entirety. So let me just do Firefox ESR. Please wait while I pull up Google Speed Test. I'm going to show Bluetooth tethering and how slow it is over Bluetooth tethering through cellular data. How it is to use versus Wi-Fi mobile hotspot tethering. So let me type in speed test, and let me just temporarily turn the phone down. Okay, let me just show. Okay, this is utilizing Wi-Fi. Okay, it's using Wi-Fi right now, which is weird. Hold on, something's not right. Well, the Wi-Fi, I get high speeds, but I've basically changed back from Bluetooth to Wi-Fi, which is very annoying. But I do need to turn off the Wi-Fi built in, disable it, force it to use mobile broadband Bluetooth tethering, and it should be connected. It should be. Let me refresh. Let me verify. I blocked Wi-Fi just for the sake of demonstration because Wi-Fi automatically takes over than the tethering does, which is auto switches itself. So I've got to hit refresh. Hold on, let me verify that this is working correctly. Okay, it shows Debian PC on my Android phone, but the tethering speed is slower over Bluetooth. It is terribly bad. Okay, if we look down below, the connection speed is shown in kilobits per second. Let me just turn off the live chat on my end where I won't disrupt live chat while I'm trying to zoom. But those speeds are 16 bytes a second down, 43 kilobits a second down, and 27 kilobits per second up. The Bluetooth tethering is slow. There's your Bluetooth signal meter, such as for Wi-Fi and for Bluetooth Wi-Fi, the power settings of it. Well, not for Wi-Fi, but I'll show you. This right here is a signal stream for the power level, link quality, things like that. See, these are your settings for your power level, transmit power, and signal strength, showing you the different strength bars. Let me just zoom out. Okay, let me show you the speed test, the connection speed. Okay, it is going to be a little slow, which that's to be expected through Bluetooth tethering. This is how slow Bluetooth tethering really goes. So it's checking, it's contacting the server, which is going through my Bluetooth tethering out to the mobile network, out to the speed test server by Google. Therefore, it's going to be very slow. Home Wi-Fi is faster, and the Wi-Fi tethering from mobile hotspots fastest, but the Bluetooth tethering is dog slow. It's contacting server, which is going to take a little bit. It's like abysmal. Okay, it won't let me. Let me just attempt to browse a web page. Let's see if we can go to Google. Start browsing. YouTube. Okay, does not work. Okay, that's weird. Okay, something's not right. Bluetooth tethering doesn't work for my Lifeline phone. I'll have to just simply change over to my cellular connection temporarily to show you what I'm talking about. Yeah, there is connection issue stitched when doing cellular data with Bluetooth streaming over Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi streaming with Bluetooth or with YouTube to my phone to YouTube over Wi-Fi in my home network works, but directly through cellular data with the mobile hotspot, Bluetooth tethering, and all that, it kind of puts a strain on trying to do this from my phone. So I'm back. Basically, I want to try to show Bluetooth tethering and how you can do it, but it won't work on all devices or all cell providers that have it explicitly blocked. Can you hear me, Stitched? Okay, it's back. Basically, I tried to show that, but it didn't work. But I'll have to make it go to Wi-Fi instead. I just wanted to demonstrate that this has onboard Bluetooth on the Intel integrated Bluetooth Wi-Fi card combination combo unit, which I got the luck of the draw to get. So don't show this message again. To put Steam on a 64-bit Debian system, here's the instructions. I'm gonna need to type on my phone's keyboard, so I gotta, or my computer's keyboard, so I gotta put the keyboard down, put my phone down and go to the keyboard rather. So let me sit the phone down and turn it towards where you can see me. Okay. I'll explain how to do this. I'll have to type in. I'll show you what it looks like. Welcome to the tutorial of Linux and computing, but this is how you would enable Steam on a 64-bit AMD install. I'd type in sudo dpkg add architecture, then space architecture name like i386 or PowerPC, ARM or something different. Okay, the focus is definitely going nuts, going all nutty on me. It won't let me focus properly. Just get it to focus right. Now I hit enter. It asks for my password, which you won't see my password on screen in Linux because that's how Linux works. Okay. Oh, I put 1, not i386. Duh me, I made a spelling error. Okay. Let me fix that. I put in a weird architecture app doesn't recognize. Let me just do sudo apt update. Okay, now it's grabbing the i386 or 32-bit packages of Debian. Okay, I mistakenly put in 1386, so I would have to show you how to correct that spelling error. This is how you would fix this. You can also add Opera the same way to Debian by installing the Opera browser easily. To do multi-arch on Debian or Ubuntu, you got to follow the instructions. I'll read what multi-arch says. Multi-arch lets you install library packages from multiple architectures on the same machine. This is useful in various ways, but the most common is installing both 64 and 32-bit software on the same machine and having dependencies correctly resolved automatically. In general, you can have libraries of more than one architecture installed together and applications from one architecture or another installed as alternatives. Note that it does not enable multiple architecture versions of applications to be installed simultaneously. This is how you would use the multi-arch on Debian, which enables 32 and 64-bit. So you would do dpkg remove architecture and add to change that out. I'll show you how to correct that mistake I did as a demonstration example. You got to type in sudo, otherwise the command will fail, telling you need to be root to do this. So I'll show you how to fix this. There. Now do apt update and the error will go away from apt. Apt is advanced packaging tool in the command line. That's what this is. You basically type, it's basically Unix. Linux is a little bit of both. To do Steam, here's how you would get Steam running. Close tabs. So you would do sudo apt sudo apt install Steam, and you would put asterisks around both the end and beginning of the package name to tell apt to select things Steam related, and it auto selects Steam, and I hit Y, and now it is downloading the packages from the Debian repository to put Steam on, and I'll show you how to do this properly. So let me just focus the phone on the screen. This is the command line method. There's an easier way to do that too, but this is the command line method I'm showing you, which is very easy to do. It's not hard. The colon i386 indicates it's a 32-bit package on a 64-bit install. Windows supports 60. Windows is 32, 64-bit, but 64-bit programs will run on 64-bit. 32 will run on 64-bit, but not the other way around intentionally, because the way it was designed to be. So I select I agree in the DevConf wizard configuration screen. Now it's installing Steam. You'll be able to tell if your computer is too old or too old to run Steam easily. Watch, and I'll prove it to you. Just watch. This will install all the packages that depends on Steam, like dependencies that need Steam to work correctly. There. Now it's done. So now I go and click Games, Steam. Now it's checking for available update. This is how it would look. You'll know if Steam will run on your computer or not depending on your CPU. You'll know if it will or won't work. You'll know that in a jiff. It's downloading the Steam update, and if it shows that it says, sorry, your CPU is too old, and that means it's not going to work. But if I don't see that error and Steam pops up with a login prompt, then it means it works. Just watch. It's extracting the package in order to run for Steam to start up correctly. For Linux, and this does also the same thing on Windows too. When you install Steam on Linux and Windows, it has to download an update and extract itself in order for you to start getting onto Steam and play games. So this is how it's going to look. This will take a couple of moments for it to do it. And let's see. In the moment of truth, it should start. Let's see if the login Steam prompt pops up immediately. If it does, great. If not, then uh-oh. Then that means Steam does not work for this CPU architect. This CPU. Okay, it's updating the runtime environment. That takes a little bit. So the Steam runtime environment update will take a little bit after a bit on Linux, but Windows it does things differently. It requires an AMD Opteron or AMD or a Intel Celeron or Intel Pentium to run Steam correctly in order to properly function. If you have an Intel Atom processor that is not supported, it'll warn you that you don't have a supported processor. Steam will actually run a CPU check to identify what CPU you're using. If you're using an Intel Atom N270 or lower, then it automatically will say, sorry, but your CPU is too old to run Steam. Okay, and it's installing the update. I am missing an NVMe SSD for this computer, which it did not come with one. Therefore, I have to get one sold separately myself to do it in order to make this truly portable. Meaning I just have the HDMI power and plug it into a TV and plug in the power adapter and bam. And mouse and keyboard and there you go. A desktop. Portable and compact. This thing is so small, you could fit this in a book bag, fit the adapter. See, it works. Steam does work with this. So this is the Intel Celeron that works. So now Steam will function on this Intel Celeron dual core processor unit because it's showing the prompt to log in and create new account or log into existing account. It works. So that's a good thing. So I can do Steam in-home streaming to this machine, play my Steam games from the computer right there, the HP Pro Desk, to the one in front right here, either way, which works. So that's a good thing. This is can be used as a Steam machine to play some Steam games on. So what I'm going to do is tell you what hardware is in the computer by typing in. Okay, I'll basically have to tell you what hardware is listed. This is using an Intel Celeron Z36 or Z37XXX series. Right there, it's an Intel Atom processor, but it identifies as Z36 triple X, which the three X's would be additional numbers right there or something. But it shows that for the VGA graphics adapter, but it shows the same for the processor system on a chip, SoC. It shows the PCI bridge. It shows different parts in here, the different things. Now for the Dolphin emulator, I don't know if this will work correctly or not, but we'll have to find out. Now, the way you'd be able to tell which version of OpenGL you're using, I'll have to show you how you can identify OpenGL in Linux. In Windows, there's an easier way. Okay, to reveal that OpenGL is visible, I'll show you how. So you would do glx info grep OpenGL version. So basically, I would copy this in, and it will tell you which version of OpenGL you're using. So here you go. Here's your answer right about here. So if I press enter, this will reveal. Okay, it says I need to do sudo. That's right. It won't work as non-root. Okay, glx info is not installed. That's why. Okay, odd, but it's hard to determine. Okay. Oh, I gotta do sudo apt get install mesa utils. That's why I don't have that. No wonder. Okay, I need to ignore that. That's why I don't have the mesa utils. Okay, I gotta press Y. You gotta have the mesa utils package that identifies what OpenGL version you're running. So now if I run that again. Okay, OpenGL version 3.0 Mesa 20.3.5. So this is running OpenGL version 3, which it reports. Yep, so it's OpenGL 3.0. To run Dolphin on here, on certain systems, you need to find out what OpenGL version you're using. So DOLPHIN Dolphin. Require. Okay. If you were to do Dolphin emulation on here on some computers, you would need to learn how to do it. You would need to have OpenGL Well, it says here, depending on the game and graphics card, Vulkan will generally provide the best performance for NVIDIA and AMD, while Direct3D 12 is preferred on Intel. Direct3D 11 is a good fallback option for stability or compatibility reasons. OpenGL should be avoided on AMD and Intel GPUs on Windows due to poorly optimized drivers. But for OpenGL version, it doesn't say what OpenGL version you should be running. Okay, here we are. It requires OpenGL 3.0 or Direct3D 10.0, a graphics card that supports Direct3D 11 or OpenGL version 4.4. Vulkan 1.1 is recommended. So Linux, you can do Linux GameCube emulation or things like that. But this has OpenGL 3, which it meets that requirement. A graphics card that supports either Direct3D 11 or OpenGL 4.4. Vulkan 1.1 will allow you to run Dolphin at 30 frames a second. Now for Steam, I'm going to show you Steam performance and how we're going to put this to the test by running an intensive Steam game. It will push the machine a bit. Let me log into my Steam and I'll be right back after these messages. Hang on while I log into my Steam account. The screen will go blank for a couple of moments. So please wait while I do this. Let me put my mic on mute temporarily. I'm back. Okay, I had to do a Steam Guard authentication, password entry, and all that. That's why I had to temporarily blank out things to prevent exposing personal information. Here it is. Steam officially boots up on this machine and works. So this can be used to play some Steam games, but it works. Someone has sent me a message on Steam. Okay, now I'm going to show you what to do. Okay, I had to temporarily turn the camera down because people are on Steam. We just respond back. Hold on. Okay, now here's what I'm going to do. To enable Steam Proton, I'll show you how this will work. I hit Settings. Now, it's going to show my email, which is going to be like that. But let me quickly tilt the camera down, which it did do that for a short moment. But let me zoom out. Okay. Well, luckily you couldn't see anything personal on the screen because it was so far back. That's why. Okay, the screen will be blank for a couple of moments. Please wait. Okay, now hold on while I tilt the camera down. I still have enough battery to run on the phone. So let me just hold on. Okay, so let me just temporarily pick a Steam game that's on my library that I can install directly. I'm running from a 250 gig external hard drive, so it won't be much of a problem. Let me just go to library. Now let me just pick a game that's going to be a bit tough is Lego, which Lego Worlds will probably be a best bet to try to push this thing a little further. So we're going to push Lego Worlds on. So this will take some time to download Lego Worlds since it's only 3 gigs in size. The download rate is going to be a bit quicker, about only 4 minutes from now. So this is approximately 4 minutes download time. This is a computer from 2015 or 2016. If I had a Elgato Capture, I would automatically plug in this computer to the Elgato Capture on my other desktop to capture things off of this directly for a live stream rather than having to use a phone. But I don't have an Elgato right now. I technically do not. This only takes 4 minutes of download time, so I'll show you the hardware settings. System information. Okay, I'll show you what the specs you need to know. It has a Intel Celeron, which you need an Intel Celeron and above in order to run Steam successfully. Intel Atoms don't count. Certain Intel Atoms may work, some may not. It's a hit or miss on the Intel Atom department, but Intel Celeron or above can run Intel Core 2 Duo, or Celeron will run Steam fine. Right here is the Celeron series. This is 2 processors. It has no hyperthreading, but it shows that you must have SSE2, SSE3, you must have FCMOV. This is Debian Linux here. Yes, it is. You must have SSE3 and SSSE3. You must have SSE41, SSE42. You must have certain things it looks for. It must have at least more than one of those things. If it doesn't, it'll error out saying you can't do Steam on your CPU. It's too old. The hardware is driver version 3.0, but the OpenGL is version 4.2. And this is the Intel open source technology Mesa DRI driver, Intel HD graphics. It's an unspecified version, but this will work. The primary VRAM is not detected because it's using shared system memory, and I put in a 4 gigabyte DDR3 module. I don't have an 8 gigabyte DDR3 module in order to bump it up to 8 gigs is the max I can take it to. But this is what it looks like. That's just nothing but extra information of that. But that's basically the system info of Steam. So we will continue this. This is going to be over 2 hours long. Instead of just stopping and starting another stream, I'll continue going to show the performance and how far I can push it to its max limit. I'm going to do a Steam stress test. Please note that due to this having 4 USB ports, I can use a Bluetooth controller when I get my Xbox Series S. I can use a Bluetooth controller, well, the Xbox controller through Bluetooth to a Bluetooth PC or tablet or phone. But due to this having 4 USB ports, it's going to limit the amount of USB devices I can hook up per time. So this is the download rate, and it is downloading at 6 megs per second, 11 megs peak, but that's the download rate. Only 3 minutes away from now. It's okay if you like, share, and subscribe to my channel to see more interesting things coming up at some point. If you want, it's your choice. But this is what's happening. So the download's only 3 minutes away from right now. It needs to download Steam, Linux, Runtime, Solder, and Proton Experimental. It needs to download some. It's called Proton. Steam Proton is a Linux Windows translation layer for Steam games that are on Windows only, that don't run on Linux. I'll show you more about it. I'll show you. The fan on this thing is not that loud right now. It'll probably ramp up as I put something a little bit more oomph onto this thing, like Lego Worlds, with a bit more oomph. It might stomp the pedal to the metal on the fan a bit. The fan is small, low profile. Let's see, Steam PR Pro, Steam Proton. Okay, Proton is a compatibility layer for Microsoft Windows games to run on Linux-based operating systems. Proton is developed by Valve in cooperation with developers from Codeweavers under contract. So Valve has a contract with Codeweavers to produce Proton for Steam on Linux systems directly. Note that if the Code Weavers and Valve contract were to expire or fail or be broken, then it would cause a significant ton of trouble. If the contract was to break or fail for any unspecified reason. But luckily that contract will stay around. It launched in 2018, 3 years ago. So 3 years ago it launched. It uses Steam Wine, which is Windows is not an emulator. It uses DirectX Vulkan to handle DirectX related stuff. This is Wine called Windows is not an emulator. You would use to run Windows stuff in through it. Wine originally launched in July 4th, 1993. That was the first release date was 1993 of Wine. Windows is not an emulator. It works on ARM architecture, x86 64, and 32-bit x86, things like that. Steam was also launched in early 2003, September 12th, 2003, which was 18 years ago. Steam had an anniversary back in September of this year, being launched on September 12th, 2003. It's a standalone software client in September as a way for Valve to provide automatic updates for their games, and they expanded their storefront to third-party publishers later on. The download is almost complete. It's at 97%, 98. It is hitting that 100% cap, and then it'll be done. Followed by a few other parts to run correctly. Now it's verifying the whole thing, which will take not that long. This is in real time to show you what happens. Live, filmed in real time. Let me add a little bit of flair. I'm going to just add it as a documentary selection. I can change filters. So let me just put it onto that. See you later. Tachi plays. This is on documentary mode. The filter is used to make it look less visually painful. It's verifying what it needs, and then it will download two other parts to run. Now it's completed. Now it's got to download the Steam parts. It'll reserve space for the Steam components to run. This is the new download interface for Steam. This takes less than 1 minute to download parts of Steam Linux Runtime. I'll hit continue. Now it's going to take at least 15 seconds to download certain things to run correctly. Valve worked with CodeWeaver's Crossover to develop Crossover for Steam Proton, which the Steam Deck is launching in February 2022. The first half of next year. Only a couple of days away before New Year's gets in. Okay, it is now getting ready to start. Well, it's got to download Proton Experimental, which will take less than 1 minute in order for it to start right. So here you go. This is 240 megs, but the disk space it'll reserve is around 1 gigabyte. Then next is the other parts. It's using DirectX Vulkan to handle DirectX calls through Vulkan. Intel HD graphics is quite interesting for certain things. The download is nearing completion. Now it's complete. Now it's installing the correct things. There. Now I can get. Now it's got to download the Steamworks, which won't take long at all. Which is at least 1 minute. But now it's under 1 minute. Download complete. Now it is getting ready to start. Now it's updating Lego Worlds, and I selected launch as soon as it's ready. If I can close that and go to it and hit play correctly. When you first install a Windows game that only works on Windows underneath Linux Steam Proton, it'll display a prompt talking about this is going to use the Steam Play Compatibility tool. Lego Worlds is launching. This occurs when you first install a Steam game. It'll take a bit for it to start. Hang on. It is launching. So it's preparing. It'll take a bit. Now it's got to do its setup of the game. And now it's going to process Vulkan shaders, rather. It'll process shaders and then it will automatically start. This does occur on Steam Proton on Linux only. Okay, it's processing the shaders needed to run the game. So please wait while this is processing its shaders. Hmm. Hold on. Lego World should be starting. And the system's not that hot. There is audio, but the video a hit or miss. You do get audio. Okay, now it's working. And it may have crashed. No, it didn't. Hang on. Okay, it's working. I would have to lower the game settings for it to run a little smoother. It's going through the intro video, which is so annoying. Let me close Firefox ESR, if that's the case. Okay, the game might have crashed already. I did do a hardware diagnostic with the built-in pre-built pre-boot assessment tool, and it did some system tests, and it passes all those tests that I did. And it did a fan spin-up test, and it verified that the fan was working. Wow, that's embarrassing. The whole system hangs. No, not quite. Steam hangs, but other parts of the system aren't hanging. Well, it's a dual core Intel Celeron, which it does work, but there's a little bit of a hang. There's some hanging here and there. And that's as far as it'll go because the whole system is kind of getting a little bit on the hangy side with Steam running. This has 4 gigs of RAM in it, which I put in a DDR3 4 gig module. But the system resources, something is causing a bit of a hang. Let me go to System Task Manager to find out what's going on. Okay, open trash twice. Oops. Okay, the memory is only 1 gig directly, so only 1 gig. And there are 2 CPU processors physically on the board itself. So something's a little off. But I think Lego Worlds is what unexpectedly died. Let me see if I can fix that. So I hit compatibility, if I can resolve why. It got Intel HD graphics all integrated in, so let me just start Lego Worlds again. And we'll see what gives. It's got to download more Proton versions on demand. It's doing this on demand. When you change to a different Proton version, it'll auto download on demand and keep it on your system until you uninstall the Proton environments. So it is currently downloading right now. Okay, Proton 3.16 is finished downloading, so let me hit Lego Worlds, right click and select play. And it's launching. This should work. My phone battery will probably run out sooner than expected. But I'll go ahead and wrap it up here after the 1 hour mark. It's got to reinstall DirectX or Windows Step 5 of 5 on any Steam game that uses DirectX or Windows underneath Steam Proton. So this will take a bit. Okay, now it's launching. The fan might max out a bit. The frame rate may be all over the place. Hang on. Okay, Lego Worlds does work, but the frame rate's a little slower. This is Lego Worlds running on the Dell Inspiron Micro 3050 with Intel Celeron. The frame rate's all over the place, but that's to be expected for a game like this. So here it is. Okay, hit E. Okay, this is going to be a little slower, but let me just do options. It does work, but the frame rate is below 30 frames a second, and this is Intel HD graphics. So there's a bit of a frame issue, like a low frame rate. Let me select options. Okay, got to select with E. Yeah, there is a frame issue, so that's going to be expected on this. My HP ProDesk 600G1, I can get better frame responses out of this, but this uses OpenGL version 4 Intel HD graphics, so there's a bit of a performance problem on this particular machine with just this alone. I can move the cursor around, but it's not instantaneously smooth movement. Okay, I got to go into the video settings and turn down that. That's the cause of the fault. Hang on. The fault is some of the graphic settings are too high. Intel has a list of compatible games you can play on the graphics hardware, depending on the graphics chipset used, whether it be an integrated GPU is where you would have to change the settings a bit. You would have to lower the settings down in order to achieve 30 frames a second or close to that mark. Hang on. Google Assistant. Okay, got to change the texture quality to low. High texture quality is probably reducing the performance, causing frame drops badly, causing some horribly bad drops. Whoops, I backed out of that. Oops. Yeah, I forgot the texture quality is so maxed out, even though this doesn't really auto configure graphics performance, it just turbo like boosts the video graphics settings too high, causing a ton of issues, such as frame rates. Okay, my phone might have hanged. Okay. Hmm.